course, over the weekend out at the coast of Italy, we had almost a modern-day Titanic situation. Well, not exactly, because the ship wasn't out to sea. It was a few hundred yards offshore, but still, it's a pretty traumatic thing to have happen. It's generally felt with today's technology, how is that even possible? Well, of course anything's possible, but that they should have been more, the general opinion, and of course I'm not a shipping expert, I don't really know much about navigation in the water and how the land compares to sea and knowing your depth and whatnot, but what I do know is there's a 950-foot ocean liner on its side off the coast of Italy, and that's because it ran aground and punctured the hull and the ship flipped on its side. Of course, the water isn't deep enough for it to sink below the wave, but obviously it would if that had happened out to sea, if the hull had been punctured out to sea. So that's what's going on right now. There's a few deaths and about 15 people missing. I think there were about 8 deaths last I knew. If you watch a different news report, you'll get a different answer though. But there's at least a few dead and about 15 missing and quite a few injured, but most people okay, other than being a little shaken up. And I do understand that in today's world, I can understand some of the anger toward how this all went down, that with technology being what it is, that there isn't some kind of devices on board that tell you that you're in danger, and I'm sure there are. The story that we're hearing is that the crew didn't really admit there was a problem. I think they thought they might get to port and evacuate the ship, but the taking on the water was a little too quick to be able to do that, and the ship ran aground and flipped, which is obviously what happens when a ship takes in water. But why they didn't admit they had the problem they had, I guess the story was that they were having an electrical malfunction, which is why there wasn't power, but it'll be under control soon. They didn't lower any lifeboats, and then by the time that they would have needed to do that, it was too late, because it would have been very difficult once the ship was on its side to lower boats into the water. Obviously, the boats on the starboard side are submerged. The boats on the port side, no, they wouldn't be lowered directly into the water the way they're supposed to. So that's how that went down. It's unbelievable that a maritime disaster of that magnitude can still happen, but I guess you come to realize that, no matter how smart our technology is, mistakes do still get made, and problems do still happen, and nature is still more powerful. No matter how big and powerful they make the ships, the ocean is still bigger. Alright, well, that's what's... For world events, that's quite a thing. I don't know how many people are following the presidential race. I don't get into it a whole lot yet. I'll get into it more when they're down to just a few candidates. On the Democratic side of things, I did not vote for Obama, and I will not be voting for him this time. I didn't vote for him, but I did feel as though I gave him a fair chance. I have not agreed with most of the things that he has done, so I will be looking elsewhere. Who do I like on the GOP side of things? I like Rick Santorum. I like Newt Gingrich. I don't dislike Mitt Romney, but he's not as conservative as I'd like him to be, although I do think he'll win. I think Gingrich has the best answers, although sometimes answers are only that you gotta see, you gotta hear the whole thing, because sometimes answers are answers, but they can't always be implemented. Obama gave a lot of good answers too, but most of them were ones that really weren't possible for one man to do or even to happen at all. And that's one of the problems now, is that's one of the reasons I feel his presidency hasn't lived up to its hype, is because he did make some promises that weren't realistic. I don't know if I'm not necessarily saying that that's what Gingrich is doing, but I guess what I'm saying is just giving good answers, you got to be aware that, that's not the whole thing. It takes answers, and it also takes being able to do the things that a lot of things are a good idea on paper, and they would be a great idea if we had a situation where the president's executive order could do it. But when you have to get the consent of Congress and you have to get the consent of others involved, well, then sometimes just having a good idea isn't enough. Being able to actually implement it plays a different role when that happens. So that's my opinion. I'll talk about this further later when I have more time. Thank you.